someone's actions should match up with their goals. If your goals don't match up with your actions, you're not going to get any progress. You're not going to get there any closer. So you need things to line up. You need training, nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, whatever it is. Like, unless you're being intentional and doing things on purpose with purpose, you're not likely really to get anywhere. And I think people hope that they'll just kind of like pour a bunch of shit in a bucket and hope that it works out. And then they're somehow surprised, or they think there's something wrong with them when they're not making progress. So it's easy to get peer pressured into other people's goals and other people's methodologies. Like, it's easy to get peer pressured into, you should just focus on your performance. Performance is the ultimate metric. If you're performing better, then, everything else is going to follow.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Invictus Mindset Podcast. Today's guest is a husband, a father, a coach, an athlete, and a writer, pulling from the world of athletics, aesthetics, academics, and lifestyle. He's the creator of Thunder Bro and a former pro baseball player, along with a CrossFit OG. One of the most passionate people I've ever met, Dave Lipson. Welcome to the show, man.
Oh, dude, thank you so much for having me. That was a great intro. Wow. There were a lot of emics in there.
Dude, I had to practice it a few times offline because I'm like, this is like a little mini rap.
Oh, it was great. You were beatboxing there for a second. It was awesome. Yeah. It was like Def Poetry Jam.
I'm so excited to chat with you, man. You've been a staple in the CrossFit space for a very long time now. You were a part of my CrossFit Level 1 seminar, and you've taught, alongside seminar staff for a very long time. And you've just progressively over time just evolved, not just in the world of fitness, but you've adapted it to your needs. You've understood how to modify and customize along the way. You've done a great job storytelling and sharing those different ideologies and things that work. And I mean, Dave, first and foremost, thank you, because you're providing the world with options, right? Where it doesn't just have to be bodybuilding. It doesn't just have to be CrossFit. It's like, now you have different ways to chase your own personal goal and make it appropriate for you and your journey. And so thank you so much for doing those things in the world. You're definitely making an impact for sure.
Well, no, that's a very generous compliment. Listen, from my perspective, I'm not that good at many things, Bryce. Like, honestly, I'm terrible with numbers. I can't build stuff. But the one thing I've always had a little bit of an aptitude for is training. So, out of a necessity, like, I have to be good at it, I feel so blessed to find something that I'm passionate about and something that I have some talent for, to be able to carve out a career and a living and support my family doing something that I frankly love and find so much joy in personally, and getting to share that with athletes who have really similar stories to me.
Very cool, man. I also will add to that. There's another thing that I've really taken note that you do, and I think you've carved a little arena for yourself, and that is your element of humor. And I think with the marketing approach, like the first video that really stood out to me, Dave, was when you were hopping on an airplane. You're already too big for the seats, and you attached a band, and you were like doing tricep extensions awkwardly with the person next to you. And I think the caption was something along the lines of "always be pumping." And I saw that and I was like, you know what? Yeah. Dave's finding a way to be unapologetically himself. I had a little bit of a pre-existing relationship with you behind the scenes, chasing the pump and training alongside Camille for a little while. And like, to be able to see you not just pursue training, share different, styles of training and educate, motivate, and inspire people. But more importantly, it's like, hey, this dude's having fun while doing it and creating a fun, humorous piece and a really like awesome element for us to observe and entertain along the way. I was like, this dude's doing the thing that lights his heart on fire.
It really does, man. And it's funny because like now in today's age with social media and all this internet marketing, a lot of people will like unquote turn it on for the camera.
Liver King.
But the God's honest truth is that for me, I have to go in the other direction. I have to like peel it back a little bit so that it's like not completely inappropriate. And even in that example, right, like we were on our way to Las Vegas to film a promotion for our Hypertrophy for Functional Fitness seminar with Stan Efferding, one of my mentors and who was involved with the seminar at the time. We were going to go out there and film these promos, and our plane got stuck on the runway. And I was paying this media guy, a lot of money, and I'm just watching the time click away and be like, damn it, I'm spending all this money on this media guy. We're not even gonna get to Vegas. This is terrible. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to do one right here. I don't care. And so I almost got put on the no-fly list because of that. Because those are real passengers on a real plane, and I'm just like sticking my hand like, here we go, pump it up. There was stuff that we did that we didn't put in that video where I was in the bathroom making noises, and then the stewardess opens up the door to find me doing banded bicep curls.
That doesn't look good.
Listen, like I think my mantra and at Thunder Bros mantra, like, it's honestly like I get so attached to this company because it is me. It is who I am. That idea of work hard, have fun, bring thunder, thrive, just not survive, and be unapologetically the big version of yourself. Like to me, that is what it should be about. Like it shouldn't be about putting on a face or being something that you're not, or having to diminish parts of yourself to fit a mold, but rather we should celebrate that stuff and we should have fun. And fitness, while it is, has a lot of utility and context and benefit, it doesn't have to be incredibly serious, right? In fact, I think if people from hundreds of years ago saw what we were doing in gyms today, they'd be like, this is fucking ridiculous. So it is ridiculous. The fitness industry is so funny. Totally. And I think if people are having fun, these things that are inherently uncomfortable and are inherently, maybe not so fun, all of a sudden become an enjoyable thing, right? That idea of shared suffering now is not something to dread, but something to celebrate, and I like that. If you're having fun with your training, it's something you'll do consistently and find joy in. And over the long term, compliance is the science with this stuff. Whatever you can stick with long and consistently will actually provide the most impactful results. So you better enjoy it.
That's great. I love that. Compliance is the science. I want to take a step back real quick and kind of understand your mindset, your methodology a little bit. What was your childhood like? How'd you get exposed to movement and sport? And how did that kind of formulate the wheels turning in between your ears that ultimately led you down the path of professional baseball?
When I was young, 4 almost 5 years old, my mother and I were in a pretty horrific car accident. We were in a tiny little Isuzu. Mom fell asleep at the wheel and she veered into the oncoming traffic lane, and we went head to head with the minivan. Oh, man. And we were in the hospital for weeks. We all survived. We're obviously okay. But that was as a young kid, it was a pretty traumatic thing. And I didn't even realize at the time what it had done to me, not just physically, but kind of like emotionally in my development, where I went to kindergarten that year and I didn't speak for months and months. And the teachers thought I had autism. Like, what's wrong with David? He's not speaking. My parents pulled me out of school. Luckily, I was like a pretty young kindergartner for my class. They pulled me out of school for the year and tried to, see what was going on. But it was PTSD, right? I was really kind of traumatized from it. And it made me a very shy and fearful and reserved kind of kid, right? I never really spoke much. I was afraid to do a lot of things, afraid to be bullied, afraid to talk to girls, afraid to do a lot of stuff. And it wasn't until, we started doing things like gym class that I was able to kind of come out of my shell a little bit, because that was the one arena that I felt safe enough and powerful enough to be the big version of myself. So in gym class, like I was a completely different kid. Like I was like running around, I was yelling at the kids, I was giving high fives. Like I was trying to, I felt awesome. I felt like a superhero. And then outside, like I was back to Dave and just kind of like, nervous and scared and shy and that type of stuff. And eventually, I became so attached to sports because it was my safe place. I think that's why I developed and became really good at baseball, because it felt so good to be that version of myself that I never wanted to lose it. Like it became part of my identity. And then, you know, out of high school, I went and played college and professional baseball. And when that was done, it's actually a pretty scary moment because, you know, from the time I was probably 12 years old, I was introduced to everyone as David, the baseball player. You know, they're like, oh, David, he's this amazing baseball player. And, you know, like I was just kind of like had to kind of reinvent myself and have a hard conversation as to, you know, like, who am I really? You know, like if baseball is not who I am, then who am I? But sports were great because it started to give me the confidence to, you know, take that outside the baseball field, you know, and outside the sporting arena and slowly bring that into my life to probably become who I always was. But, you know, it took some time to build the confidence to get
Totally.
there.
I want to bookmark you there for one quick second.
Love.
And I'm just gently curious. I've chatted with a lot of professional athletes, Olympians, and people that are just, quite frankly, have such an impressive resume. Trident Coffee is sponsoring this episode of the Invictus Mindset Podcast. My guys over at Trident taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good and bad, and everything in between. At Trident, they're storytellers. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. They help create connections through symbology and storytelling that engage their customers on an emotional level, and this distinguishes them from other coffee brands. You can find Trident in Imperial Beach and in Coronado. They offer over 14 plus nitro cold brews along with dairy-free options. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from their keto bakery. All these options will allow you to support your health and fitness journey with Trident Coffee. They're more than just a coffee company. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Once again, that's tridentcoffee.com. Use code Invictus20 for 20% off online and in tap rooms. Take your coffee experience to the next level. Two important factors for us over at Invictus Mindset are true care and attention to detail. My friends over at RX Smart Gear have been bringing innovative fitness tools to the market since 2009. From their award-winning Evo speed ropes to their amazing gymnastics grips to their line of inflatable fitness equipment, they're constantly looking to problem solve within the fitness industry. They're always allowing us to have our gear work for us rather than against us. Hop on over to RX Smart Gear and use discount code Invictus Mindset to shop their latest cutting edge gear. Have your gear work with you and not against you. And this element of identity has become very important, where, you know, so a cultural conditioning kind of leads us down the path of at almost every get together. It's like, hi, nice to meet you, Dave. What do you do? And there's this attachment of identity to function. Like, I'm going to determine my level of respect based on the answer that you give for your occupation, as opposed to, hey, Dave, how are you? What's some of your story? Or, you know, what are you excited about at the moment? And asking a better, more meaningful question. How did you deconstruct that level of identity at a time of extreme vulnerability? You already overcame some adversity after that car accident. You found something that really allowed you to feel like you could come alive. And then later down the road, you're like, okay, I need to figure out the transferable skills to use these characteristics in another place.
Oh, I mean, everything is fleeting. Everything goes away, you know, and I think where people really have a hard time is when they get stuck, you know, and I see that with a lot of my teammates where they're, you know, their career ended 20 years ago, but they're still stuck at that place. They've been able to move on. And I think I was lucky because right when my baseball career was ending, another career was beginning. And it was hard, there was like a good solid 6 months of depression to just be like, what do I want to do? What lights me up like that? What makes me feel that kind of confidence that I have something, that I'm special, that I have something to bring the world, and training to me was like such an upgrade, because when you're an athlete, you're very self-focused. It's cool. You can inspire folks being an athlete and, give little kids something to shoot for. And I remember signing autographs and, feeling really cool or whatever. But training to me is like really the ultimate, because you can drastically impact people's lives in a very powerful way, in a life-changing way. And so when I found training, what I realized was that, sports, baseball, athletics, they're just a vessel for me to express my gifts, for me to bring this to people, to use that. There are lots of different little boats that I could put this in. And the next one for me was training. And now it's just another vessel for me to express my gifts. And first in training, I thought it was like, oh, I'll train people and I'll be a CrossFit athlete, and I'll do some training on the side. And then it became more of like, I think I'm more interested in what I can bring on the actual practitioner side of things. And I love writing. Let me try writing, and I can be that person there, and I can do this stuff on camera, and I can teach seminars and, do bodybuilding shows, or now get into nutrition. But these are all like just vessels for us to express our gifts. So I think, what you do is not who you are. Who you are is more how you do it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's more of like it's not what you're doing, but it's like that little spin. It's the guy doing bicep curls on the airplane that is really like who you are.
I heard something the other day that I thought you would appreciate. I might bastardize it, but I think it goes something along the lines of when you work with your hands, you're a laborer. When you work with your hands and your mind, you're a craftsman. But when you combine the hands with the mind and the heart, now you're an artist. And what's cool is like seeing your evolution over time. It was very tangible in the beginning. It was very like self-focused, and it's broadened your perspective and evolved into being useful to the world, to being a contributor and deeply caring for others, and using yourself as a self-proclaimed laboratory or a guinea pig to explore some of these different dark corners that I think people think about but are hesitant to take a trip to and spend an Airbnb in some of these fitness places that seem a little bit, lost or out of the ordinary and don't fit within the cultural norm.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. And there's so many areas that are like, honestly, I think what holds people back sometimes, unfortunately, is just being lorded over by one thing or another, being a little bit afraid of judgment or repercussions or whatever. And that to me, like, that does not feel like a fun way to live. That feels very restrictive. And there are points in my life, in my career, where I've had to, do stuff that pissed a lot of people off. It made them angry. I get hate mail, and I knew, like, there are going to be, people that I like and respect that are not going to be super fans of this. But at the end of the day, we have one life. And our time is limited, and it's this fleeting gift that, belongs to you. So I wouldn't, for folks, like, I wouldn't wait, I wouldn't wait to pursue or explore these things that you have interest in. I would really nurture it and take in mind that, the people that oftentimes are discouraging you from exploring it, they have their own agendas.
Totally.
And they have their own demons to fight, and surround yourself with the right people too.
For sure, man. This episode is brought to you by HVMN, Health via Modern Nutrition. They launched the world's first ketone drink in 2017, and then in 2022 launched the version 2 of their exogenous ketone product line called Ketone IQ. I found that incorporating ketones into my morning routine increased my daily focus and energy. The beauty of this product is that you can stack it. It doesn't even have to replace your morning routine. My morning routine looks like taking the dog on a walk, hitting my daily shot of Ketone IQ, hopping in the cold plunge, and then finishing it off with a nice Trident coffee while I soak up some morning sunlight. Try out some ketones for yourself by using the code INVICTUS for 20% off Ketone IQ. Ketones are a super efficient fuel for your brain that leaves you feeling energized and clear-headed. Give it a shot. I promise you won't regret it. Once again, use code INVICTUS for 20% off Ketone IQ. Move fast and break shit. This is one of the core values at LSKD and something that we fully resonate with here at the Invictus Mindset Podcast. LSKD develops functional sportswear with a streetwear aesthetic that's on a mission to inspire you to chase the vibe through sport, fitness, and adventure. Through my experiences with LSKD products and their team members, I have found a brand that I can call home that keeps me performing at my highest level through fitness and business. I train daily in the rep shorts and love the versatility they offer, so I can go from training at the gym directly to meetings, client consults, running errands, or preparing for podcasts. The LSKB vibe has finally reached San Diego, and we want you to experience it too. Go to us.lskd.co to start shopping today. We want to inspire you to chase the vibe. Going back to your story, as you were navigating this identity shift, you got a little bit into personal training, a little bit into bodybuilding. How did you ultimately find your way into CrossFit?
So, after my baseball career, I started personal training people in New York City, like a really cool, very private gym. And I had a crazy roster of awesome, like high-end clients. And one of my colleagues, trainers, was she was actually a former bodybuilder, but we started training together a little bit, and she had a gymnastics background, and she found CrossFit, and so we were kind of like trying to do the workouts, but we really didn't know what that stuff meant. It would say like kipping pull-ups, and I'd be like, I don't know what the hell is a kipping pull-up. You mean like a pull-up? And so we kind of learned it together, and we were doing it on our own, but probably just terribly, right? Because it was our best imitation of what we thought it was supposed to be. And we were watching videos on the internet. This is back when, there wasn't a lot of information on CrossFit back then. There was a main site, and then there was some people that did some YouTube videos, and you really had a hard time deciphering what it is exactly you were seeing. So we went to an affiliate in CrossFit NYC. This is in 2008. And it was like in the fashion district of the city. I remember walking up this like old building, the stairwell with like nails coming out of the wall, and it was totally awful. And I saw this gym that looked like no other gym I had seen before, because the gym we came from was like a ballroom. It was like marble floors, like $10,000 machines everywhere. And this was like it looked like homemade equipment. It was homemade Olympic lifting platforms. It was all rusted out and stuff like that. It had a real earthy feel to it, I guess you could say. And we did a workout called Fight Gone Bad, which a lot of CrossFitters are familiar with. It's a fun one and simple enough that most people could just kind of pick it up. The first, if they know how to move a little bit, they could just pick it up. And so we did it, and the coaches came up to us and they're like, "You guys are amazing. You got to compete at the CrossFit Games." And they were like all excited about this. And I was just kind of confused. I was like, I came here for like a little workout, get my heart rate up. Like I was a professional baseball player for a long time. Like I'm not trying to be the best exerciser in the world, like I didn't even know what that meant. But I remember they talked about it, and we're hamming it up like it was like the World Series. Yeah. And I was like, okay, it's like whatever. Like I was trying to imagine what it could be. I'm like, it kind of sounds like the Jackass of fitness, right? Jackass was big back then. Yep. It's like, okay. So anyways, we learned more and more about it. And sorry, I'm getting 17 calls while I'm on with you. And that summer I was out in California on my birthday visiting some friends who were still playing baseball. I was, following them around in their minor league season and just going to support them. And I was in that same area, not too far from Gilroy, because this was the California League, where I was like, oh yeah, they're doing that event there. I remember they said they were going to do that CrossFit Games thing there. I'm like, I'm going to go check it out. I got a free day. Let me go see what's going on.
Yep, up at the
no
ranch.
idea what to expect. I don't know what I was thinking. I was thinking that it was going to be, because I had done some like powerlifting competitions before and some strongman competitions before. I was expecting it to be like in a gymnasium. You know what I mean? Like, I thought it would be like, oh yeah, they'll rent out the basement of a church and do it there. It was on Dave's ranch. So like when I rolled up, the first thing I remember is just like dust and dirt everywhere and a bunch of cars parked on a hill. And as I looked around, I saw all these like Hummers, these like, expensive trucks and stuff with like CrossFit gym logos on them. And I remember thinking like, how do these trainers afford cars like this? I was like, well, I don't, because to me training, like I didn't even think it was going to be a career. I thought it was something I'll do for a while until I figure out what I really want to do to make some money. And I was like, well, what's going on here? You walk up to the front gate and there's this like girl at the front gate who's literally like has these like little tickets she's handing out. And she goes, are you a spectator or are you a competitor? And I was like, in that moment, it caught me off guard when she said that, because I thought that was probably the deepest question anyone's ever asked me. If you think about it, right? In life, are you a spectator or are you a competitor? I think about 10% of people in the world are competitors and the rest are spectators. But I was like, I'm a competitor. Like I've had to fight. Like, yes, I'm going to compete. So, without much background, I think at that time I had done, 2 or 3 CrossFit workouts up to that point. I jumped right into the CrossFit Games. We did chest to bar Fran. You could pick which workout you wanted to do and when you wanted to do it. You just kind of like, it was a big festival, but in there I started to meet people. And what I noticed was that there were a lot of athletes and coaches there that I could just very easily relate to. I saw myself in them a lot. Like I was like, oh, they have a similar background than me. They have similar passions than me. Like I could see myself being that person,
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, this is kind of cool. I felt understood. And so by chance, I ended up out at dinner with Mark Ripito and Mike Bergener and Coach Glassman
Mike
and Dave
B.
Castro, because I was just chatting with them in the stands. Dave was just kind of like sitting in the stands, and he was like, hey, he was like, where are you from? And I'm like, I'm from New York. I used to play baseball and just my, third CrossFit workout. And we just started hamming it up a little bit. And CrossFit is so inviting. It really pulls you in. He's like, hey, come out to dinner with us. I'm like, well, I'm all alone out here. So yeah, sure. I'd love to come out to dinner. And at this dinner, first of all, everyone was talking about like Coach Glassman. I had no idea who Coach Glassman was. In fact, I thought that Coach Bergener was Coach Glassman, because Coach Glassman looked so little like a coach and Coach Bergener looked so much like a coach that I'm like, this must be the guy. This looks like a traditional strength and conditioning guy that like designed this whole thing. And Mark Ripito was at a dinner and he was just rambling and raving at Greg, and I thought they were just like 2 crazy old men. I was like, I don't know who these guys are. Like, are they in the right place? Like, I think they might be at the wrong table or something. And so, I struck up a friendship with Dave, and he said, hey man, you should really come to one of our seminars. I'll comp you a spot, come to the gig. And he, being invited in by him and by the community, honestly, is like what got me in. The fact that it is so inviting, and I think that's still to this day one of CrossFit's biggest strengths, is that it's a very warm community that pulls people in and gives them a sense of kinship where that's not really present in a traditional gym model.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you don't see that outside of, after high school. For most people, it's like a home base and a gathering ground for many folks. The lucky ones like yourself, leave and then develop relationships in college sports and later professional sports. But outside of, honestly, church, there's not, or maybe like adult league sports, there's not really a hub or a meeting place where you see the same group all the time. And so CrossFit crushed it in that regard for sure. LMNT, pronounced element, is a tasty electrolyte drink mix with everything you need and nothing you don't. That means a science-backed electrolyte ratio with none of the junk. No sugar, no coloring, no artificial ingredients, no gluten, no fillers, and most importantly, no BS. Whether it's after a long workout, hot yoga, or an intense sauna and ice session, I've been using Element to keep me hydrated and replenishing all of my lost electrolytes. So many of us wake up chronically fatigued, and the antidote to this is salt water. Salt has previously been blamed for blood pressure issues, but new research shows that replenishing salt and electrolytes can lead to more energy, no headaches, a clear mind, and enhanced focus. Use the link drinklmnt.com/InvictusMindset to make any purchase of Element, and you will receive a free sample pack with all of the Element flavors. Once again, that's drinklmnt.com/InvictusMindset.
It's a fraternity. It's much closer to co-ed sports than it is to the traditional gym model. I want you to imagine, like, Bryce, go to a city, walk into the 24-hour fitness, and then invite some strangers to dinner.
Yeah.
They're going to think you're fucking nuts, dude.
Yep.
They're going to be like, why are you talking to me? Like it's and that's what's so beautiful about it. And I think that is something that I've tried to hold on to, just that feeling of inviting people in and making them part of a family versus another client or customer.
Yeah.
Like, I think clients and customers go, but family, family's forever.
Yeah, for sure, man. And that eventually led you to San Diego. You coached at Invictus for a very long time. Your wife, Camille, won the CrossFit Games. You were a high-level competitor for many years. And that eventually led to, correct me if I'm wrong, but a little bit of burnout and also a pretty severe back injury for you.
Yeah, I think it's a common story, man. Like I love CrossFit. Like I said, like this can be dangerous when these things get tied to your identity. It can really block your view of like what's going on, And for me, I love CrossFit so much. I really love competing and just like being a part of it and adopting all of its methodologies. But I didn't realize that it was actually hurting me quite a bit. Just the intensity and the nature of some of the movements and just my desire and who I am, the type of person who really likes to push. I ended up with just a really bad chronic back injury that eventually started, like I started losing feeling in my legs. So I started losing function in my body. And that was the point where I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do something about this. Up to that point, it was just kind of a slow decline of, hurting myself and trying to rehab it and coming back and hurting myself again, just doing the same thing because I didn't think there was any other way to train. And certainly the idea of not doing deadlifts and back squats and thrusters and pull-ups and that stuff, like that was everything I was surrounded by.
I also think it's important to note that like at that time, when you're managing pain and you're, as you alluded to before, a little bit stuck in an environment where all these people, their goal is that thing. And so you're kind of like the guy in the corner trying to figure out, how do I customize or scale so I can still be a part of the group, but it really hurts my body to do some of those things. Now it's like this toggling of like feeling like you're the loner on the playground. And then that leads into this challenging psychological warfare. And then you have all this ideation that, you have this gift that you want to share of all these different fitness methodologies, but it doesn't really fit in that space. And so what I watched from you was just like the psychological tinkering, tons of observation. And then you took that and you're like, you know what? I'm going to explore this a little bit because CrossFit is such a small percentage of the huge fitness market in the world.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that the tribal thinking makes it very hard for people to have the courage to think on their own and form their own opinions because you become, excommunicated, excommunicado, as John Wick would say.
Totally.
Right. And like for me, like that back injury was honestly, that was the big wake up call where I'm like, I can't keep doing this. I like the community. I was comfortable. I mean, like I was working full time for CrossFit. My wife was the CrossFit Games champion. All of our friends were CrossFitters. That's all they ever wanted to do or talk about. And I'm like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. Like at least not that much, like I don't think I can do it the way you're kind of talking about it. And I love some of the things, like I love the community and I love the functional movements, but I think that if you're not evolving, you're dying. And I was at the point where I had no choice but to evolve. Like if I kept doing what I was doing, it was just more heartache and surgery and feeling bad about yourself. You couldn't do what you used to do. It wasn't really serving my goals. And you get a lot of pushback when you introduce a different idea to a community that honestly, like, and I think CrossFit, you have to separate CrossFit HQ from CrossFit gyms in the community, because like CrossFit HQ, they're not a great fan of new ideas. At least back then when it was under previous administration, like they didn't like changes and or different types of thinking. And so I had to step away. I had to leave HQ and go out on my own and leave a very secure, very fun and fulfilling job to be able to grow, which was scary and hard. But my wife, being the amazing person she is, like fully supports me, knows who I am. And at the end of the day, like I said, like we got one life to pursue this stuff. So she was very, very supportive. And my goal was to start to explore that middle ground, that middle ground between performance and aesthetics, where I could still, develop imposing physicality and get the biological adaptations. I want to look awesome. I want to look like a superhero, maybe even compete in bodybuilding one day, but still be able to do stuff outside the gym, still be able to run and play and be athletic and not just be a display model only. So really my idea was a compromise of both. Maybe I don't need to be doing the high skill, crazy hard or crazy heavy, intense workouts that tend to hurt you, or injure you. Maybe I can tone that back a little bit to simpler things to just get the benefits of athletic movement and a good cardio respiratory capacity, but also spend most of my time trying to build quality muscle and do it in a progressive, thought out, structured way that wasn't constantly varied, but more of like, had more of a plan and a structure to allow for recovery and frankly, to allow for progress in a specific arena.
Yeah, I love the ideology that you've come to terms with. And, I also think that term tribal thinking is a very dangerous game to play. And I think gently just deep reflection and exploration of like, how is this training program serving me? Is it moving? Is it helping me or hurting me? It's kind of a simple question, but at the same time, it's hard to deconstruct that when there are other value systems associated with community and being heard and understood. And I think we saw it a little bit with Marcus Filly in the beginning, where he brought in this term functional bodybuilding. And you've even taken it a step further and realized, you dove in a little bit to the psychology and seeing that like, okay, these people need to put on muscle mass. In order to do that, they had to like back off some of the cardiovascular intense pieces. And then you also did such a cool job of decreasing the emphasis on the score. And I love that, Dave, which is so overly highlighted in the CrossFit space. What's your time on the whiteboard? How much weight did you lift?
Oh, it gets really hard. And I think that's where people end up like really getting discouraged, honestly, because they put so much emphasis on that. And you mentioned something about, someone's actions should match up with their goals. If your goals don't match up with your actions, you're not going to get any progress. You're not going to get there any closer. So you need things to line up. You need training, nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, whatever it is. Like, unless you're being intentional and doing things on purpose, with purpose, you're not likely really to get anywhere. And I think people hope that they'll just kind of like pour a bunch of shit in a bucket and hope that it works out. And then they're somehow surprised, or they think there's something wrong with them when they're not making progress. So I think that's the big thing first, is to make sure that if you, I think when we were talking about the kind of the tribal thinking and going from CrossFit, it's easy to get peer pressured into other people's goals and other people's methodologies. Like, it's easy to get peer pressured into, you should just focus on your performance. Performance is the ultimate metric. If you're performing better, then, everything else is going to follow. And they kind of diminish aesthetics, when the fact of the matter is, I think most people that are going to the gym are there to look good and feel good. I think a minority of people go to that gym to try to be the fittest athlete on earth, and the majority of them go there because they want to transform their bodies. And they want to be able to do it and not get fucked up and hurt and be able to do it for a while, and just have a more tentative compromise. But on the note of like knowledge, there's a difference between knowledge and information. Okay. And the difference is, information is something you can read in a book. You guys can listen to this podcast and be like, oh, I got a bunch of information. Knowledge is having done it and failed at it and repeated it and gone through the steps to actually know inherently what it is at a complex level and being able to explain it at a simple level, but actually knowing it. And like, just like with CrossFit, someone could do a couple thrusters and a pull-up and say they're a CrossFitter, but you're not a CrossFitter until you're doing the whole program. Mm-hmm. You're not a CrossFitter really until you're in a gym, doing things to a standard, doing a constantly varied program, logging your scores. Like, that's CrossFit. Doing some burpees isn't CrossFit. It's CrossFit-esque. It's imitation CrossFit. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to be an imitation bodybuilder. I didn't want to be like, oh yeah, it's bodybuilding. But I understood that if I wanted to gain the same kind of credibility that I had in CrossFit, having done it as an athlete and a coach and an educator, I needed to now step into a different arena and go into bodybuilding and learn and accumulate real knowledge from the best bodybuilders in the world. And I was lucky that I reached out to people, and they were so kind to me to take someone not from their community and take me under their wing and show me stuff. I lived out in Denver next to Armbrust Pro Gym, which was the home of the 7-time Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath, and I got to hang out with him. They have a staff of like amazing trainers with 30 years of experience turning amateurs into pros. Some of their trainers become some of my best friends, and I learned so much. And I would look at it through a lens of like, okay, this is bodybuilding. I'm going to learn it and know it and compete as an amateur and then at nationals and kind of experience all of it so that I have some good street cred, but real knowledge. And then I'm going to take a step back and look through it through the lens of functional fitness and say, okay, well, what does this mean to my athlete who has a barbell and a set of dumbbells and is not trying to get on stage, but just wants to look good and still be able to perform pretty well? And to me, that was the real difference maker, is the not being a bodybuilding imitator, but actually being a bodybuilder and a CrossFitter, and then finding that middle ground together.
That's super cool. So a little takeaway that I'm hearing there is the world is rich in knowledge, but poor in experience. And you took the theoretical components of the book side, or the ideation, or the observation/imitation on YouTube and your perception of bodybuilding. So you know what? I'm going all in. I'm finding the experts in Phil Heath, former basketball guy, woo woo, especially for March Madness going on right now. And Dave, that's really brave and honorable. I mean, I'm sure in the beginning phases, it's like hypertrophy training and bodybuilding also takes a long time. It's way different than 21-15-9 that can be done in 3 to 5 minutes. So how did you adapt to that? What was the psychological component of staying focused and staying dialed in for the duration of, probably a 60 to 75 minute session would be my guess?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there because a lot of folks say they came from bodybuilding and then they started doing CrossFit. And what they thought was bodybuilding was like going to 24-hour fitness and doing 3 sets of 10 of leg extensions and hamstring curls and leg press. When it's like, that's not bodybuilding. That's very poor bodybuilding. The same way you see very poor CrossFit, right? Real bodybuilding is hard and challenging and disciplined and has so many different layers and levels. There's periods of time where you're going through accumulation and you're trying to increase your body mass. You're trying to operate in a caloric surplus. You're trying to be as refined as you can with your nutrient balance and your lifestyle and your recovery. Then there's periods of time where you're trying to bring out muscular definition and reduce your body fat and go into a deficit and introduce things like fasted cardio and work on a progression, shrinking the size of fat cells and really bringing out vascularity, muscle striation, muscle separation. And then there's actually the act of like getting on stage and presenting it and being able to pose well and being understanding like simple things and body control. I mean, there's so many layers to it. So unless you're really doing it for real, you're not really doing it. So all these folks that, came to CrossFit and they said, oh, I did bodybuilding, but it didn't work. That would be like saying I did a couple burpees and it didn't work. It's like, no, you just didn't do it right. And what I love about taking CrossFitters back to bodybuilding and exposing them to stuff like our Muscle Anarchy program, which is, advanced bodybuilding concepts laid on top of functional movements and minimal equipment, is that, these CrossFitters have so many valuable skills that most people in that bodybuilding arena don't have. And it gives them a huge advantage for progress. And the skills are, one, knowing how to move. Most people, when they go in the gym, they have no idea how to do a back squat correctly. Even decent bodybuilders don't back squat correctly or deadlift correctly or do these functional movements well. And most people coming from CrossFit have a pretty good level of kinesthetic awareness, meaning that they understand how to use their body and how to coordinate themselves to get the most bang for your buck and, the most return on the effort. And those movements are so high utility, like they provide such a impressive return on the work. So that's a huge advantage right there. And the second thing CrossFitters know how to do is they know how to train hard, which is another thing. You'll see people in bodybuilding gyms, but they're just like, they're not training very hard. They're just like, squeezing their muscle going, ooh, like that. But they're like, CrossFitters will do pull-ups until their hands bleed. So now if you take those skills and you just point them in the right direction and you say, hey, you're going to back squat, but we're going to do it a little slower. We're going to do controlled movement. We're going to throw some pauses in there. We're going to do some supersets. We're going to find new ways to create intensity. They want to push and they get huge results really quickly. I think that's why you saw when you mentioned in the pre-show, you were talking about Heber. Yep. That's why Heber has such huge results so fast, because he already knows how to move and he knows how to work hard. So all we need to do is give him a program that's on purpose with purpose. And all of a sudden the results are coming hard and fast.
Yeah, for sure. Huge shout out to Heber from the Buttery Bros. Put on some good muscle mass, got to show it off a little bit out under the Miami sky there at Wodapalooza. This episode is brought to you by Mush. My friends over at Mush created an incredibly cool product of ready-to-eat overnight oats. And for those of you that listen to the podcast often, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. And Mush has done just that, as their products have no more than 7 clean ingredients that are dairy-free, gluten-free, with no added sugar. Mush started right here at Invictus, as they had a vision to create convenient, healthy, and clean nutrition. And this landed them on Shark Tank, where the famous Mark Cuban invested in them. Now they're found in retailers all over the country, including Costco, Sprouts, Target, and Whole Foods. Check out my friends over at www.eatmush.com. And the other thing that I think is really cool is, going back to my comment about the score, there's a difference between, hey Dave, how many pull-ups did you do, versus what was the quality of muscle contraction? Did you deeply have a mind muscle contraction? Did you integrate, as you mentioned, pauses, partials, eccentric loading to enhance the time under tension? Maybe you do 8 to 10 reps, but that muscle is really damaged, and in a good way, obviously. And then, has the potential to heal, recover, come back thicker, bigger, stronger, versus, hey, I did 20 reps. The last 6, I was kind of cheating them and rep chasing. And there's a time and a place for it, right? There are probably days within your program where you do some little cheating reps and try to enhance the total intensity, or maybe you get an assistance from a spotter. But there is a different intention psychologically between the two. Maybe you can elaborate on it a little bit better than I did.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's just a huge mental break. It's a huge mental break to not have to worry about how heavy the weight was or how many reps they do or how fast they could do it, but really just focusing on the training effect. And the training effect, you mentioned things like accumulating quality repetitions. So to define a quality repetition, that's a movement done with proper mechanics and good intensity, and being able to accumulate that over years where you're kind of progressively overloading these movements over time without hitting those bumps in the road that set you back. Because the most common analogs to injury are speed and load, meaning I went too fast and I got hurt, or I went too heavy and got out of position and got hurt. Well, with bodybuilding, and especially the way that we do it, it's not really about taking heavy weights and trying to make them feel easy. It's not about finding ways to cheat and like doing a kipping pull-up and using your hips a little bit, but it's about taking lighter weights and making it feel really, really hard. The intensity is still high. You're always on the cusp of failure, but the way that you're doing it is actually not just about going as fast as you can or as heavy as you can, but doing things with really intentional focus and methods that we know are so conducive for muscle growth. And I think it's nice for people, like you take a CrossFit Games athlete and all of a sudden their arms are shaking and they're going, holy shit, I've never thought a banded strict pull-up could be this hard. You're like, yeah, because they've only thought one way. You know, they've been trained like this is the only way, intensity is the only way, my score is the only thing. And the truth is, when you focus on training effect, I think one, it's a nice mental break, but two, you also make better progress because you're no longer getting mental over like, well, I can do that weight, but I need to rest a little longer, or I can't do it with that range of motion, or I'm going to have to like bounce it off my chest a little bit. Like, no, that's not how it works. Like, you know, we set those parameters almost like bumper lanes on a bowling alley to keep people safe, and they can go as hard as they can within those bumpers. And now they're making progress and they're staying
That's
safe.
super cool. Out of curiosity, how do you create buy-in with maybe a novice mindset where people are always looking at trying to measure their progress? Maybe they don't necessarily see the body composition changes in the mirror. Are you guys, you know, doing forms of DEXA scans, or, you know, how do you form progress to elicit, you know, continual longevity with a client or with members of Thunderbro, you know, other than, you know, here are the 1 rep maxes, here are the reps that you've improved?
I've been around a lot of fitness people, coaches, exercise physiologists, business owners, and it's a game of a bunch of competing voices, right? Where there's just like a lot of talking. And somebody pulls out the science card according to this study, and somebody pulls out the statistic card, and blah, blah, blah. Talking aside, results are king. Results dominate. You can sit there and give me a dissertation on the best methods of hypertrophy and diet, but at the end of the day, if you're looking at an athlete with a before and an after, and you're going, what the fuck happened to that person? People don't care how you got there, okay? They don't give a shit. That speaks way louder than words. So I actually am a huge proponent of objective and subjective and visual data to back up the efficacy of programs. In fact, right now, I've got this big banner behind me. It's like a 10-foot banner. We're making a banner of a few hundred before and afters from Thunderbro.
Cool.
Being like, it doesn't matter what I say. Just check out the banner behind me. If you're into that, come find me. Because that's what I do. I'm in the game of body transformation. Okay, that's it. Yes, you'll get stronger. Yes, you'll be healthy. You're gonna have to do that to get the transformation. But I'm in the game of body transformation. I'm in the game of changing people. And so I ask everyone for DEXA scans, for InBody scans. I say, you know, they track their weight every single week. We need that data, because if we can't show that and prove that we're effective, we're now reduced to everyone else just trying to talk about how they're better. And that's not real. What's real is results.
Yeah, totally, man. What are some of the other programs that you guys have offerings? You talked briefly around Muscle Anarchy. What are some of the other programs that are a part of the Thunderbro umbrella that could potentially be beneficial for people?
Well, the whole umbrella is really around the concept of performance and aesthetics. So that's kind of the theme with all of our programs. But depending on what you want and how fast you want it and your specific goal, that would filter you towards a different program. So for athletes that are like new to hypertrophy training, so let's say you got a young kid who, you know, is starting to lift for the first time, or a CrossFitter who's never really done some serious hypertrophy training, or maybe you have someone who's taken a hiatus from training, or somebody coming off of injury. We have this program called the 90-Day Get Huge program, which is a program inspired by what I did after back surgery, which starts with very light weights, with tempos and isometrics and truncated rest periods. And it's a progression. This book is a progression that starts you from like very slow and safe lifting to some heavier lifting. And it also exposes you to some fun kind of cool methods with our finishers. So every day I'll have 4 progressive overload movements and 2 finishers where you get to touch some of the cool methods. And progressive overload is fun, but it's linear, right? It's like the same thing every week for 4 weeks, and then these movements rotate and the rep schemes change a little bit. But the finishers are the stuff where you get exposed to like the gnarly things where you are getting like totally pumped out and thrashed with like a band or dumbbells, or, you know, it's a cool cash out. And I designed that program to be able to blend or mesh with other programs. So it's a 3-day-a-week program, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And we combine, every day is more of a total body day where you have like lower body squatting with upper body pulling, or lower body hinging with upper body pressing. and the finishers correlate with those body parts. But it's really meant for somebody who's like either training 3 days a week, just starting to train, or a CrossFitter who's like, I love my affiliate program. I love doing CrossFit. I still want to CrossFit 3 or 4 days a week, but I also want to focus on hypertrophy and make some progress. So that to me is like the entry point for people. And we sell that as a book, and we also combine it as a challenge where you can do it with nutrition coaching and a lifestyle guide to kind of track all those factors that we talked about, where it's like, it's not just what you're doing in the gym, but it's the 23 hours that you're not in the gym that you can really fuck it up. And those 23 hours are actually where you're making the most progress. So you got to have everything dialed in to really see optimal results. From there, a lot of our athletes matriculate into our Muscle Anarchy program. And this is our most popular program. We have thousands of athletes in it. They're all doing it in their CrossFit gyms and open gym hours and their home gyms. And it's our core program is 5 days a week, legs, chest, back, shoulders, and arms respectively. And it'll be about 75% of it is hypertrophy training. This is where you're getting like really cool advanced bodybuilding methodology with just barbells and dumbbells. And a quarter of it is what I would consider nicer CrossFit training, like a little bit more user-friendly, more basic movements and functions, nothing heavy. The conditioning is the conditioning. The lifting is the lifting. We don't ask them to condition with heavy weights because you break down so much muscle doing the hypertrophy training that it's just not necessary. And we utilize the conditioning not just for developing aerobic capacity and athletic development, but we also use it for its regenerative functions and moving blood around to the body parts you may have previously trained. So the way our conditioning workouts work is that if you train legs on Monday, your conditioning on Wednesday is going to be something lower body based so you can start to flush and recover your legs. And then with that, we realized like, some people love that program, but they only have a certain amount of time to do it in. So we have like Muscle Anarchy Express. So it's the same thing, just 40 minutes. We have a 4-day split where the upper body days are push and pull. So you touch body parts twice a week on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We have a 3-day-a-week split like that. And then we have dumbbell versions of all that for folks who have like limited equipment sets. And then the last thing we do, which is probably our second most popular product behind Muscle Anarchy, is our Shred Challenge, where we combine Muscle Anarchy with a whole nutrition system. And this is awesome because you're getting training, nutrition, and one-on-one coaching. We're doing check-ins every week. We're updating your nutrition prescription and your macros. You're on a fasted cardio progression, and you're following a whole nutrient timing guide. And this is honestly where we get the best before and afters. When you have all those things working together, the results are very remarkable and impressive. And it's kind of like, I call it stacking the deck in the athlete's favor, saying like, hey, for 30 days, let's control everything that we can control to reduce the size of your fat cells and increase your muscularity and see what happens. And it's nice because athletes only need to commit for 30 days. We do all the thinking for them. We write out all their directives and all they need to do is execute.
That's great, man.
So we run that every month.
I love hearing the behind the scenes and the mindset of the ideology and how you've implemented it based on the story, your personal story, and how that's evolved over time. And there's so many different offerings that you guys have. I love that a lot of these things don't have to be either or, but also combine with people that are in pursuit of their CrossFit goals and performance orientations. With that being said, Dave, I know your schedule's packed. You're a father, you're a husband, you write, you manage a team. Lastly, as we kind of wrap things up, man, how do you find ways to integrate this thing called balance? Or sometimes I like to think of it as harmony. How do you make your training and your personal growth a part of this whole thing, man?
Yeah, well, it's taken a lot of time and a lot of psilocybin to get there. Yeah, it's been a journey for me, just same way we has evolved as an athlete and a man and a business person and a father and a husband. Like it's kind of being able to go through the process of prescribe, assess, and adjust. And for me, what I've realized is I have an excessive personality. It's hard for me to walk and not to run, and it's just honestly at a certain point with my business and all this stuff going on, we were in the hospital with my daughter Zoe for months and months when she was born. There's always something going on. You could easily get spun out of control where you are just running around like a chicken with your head cut off, and you're doing a lot of stuff, but you're not really getting anywhere. And for me, reading Ryan Ryan Holiday, who wrote a bunch of books on Stoicism. One of my favorites with Discipline is Destiny, has really helped me understand what I should be doing and what I should not be doing, and what to eliminate, how to live a little bit more as minimalistic as I can to focus on the important stuff, and also be able to turn things off. And I'm at a point now where, I get up, I have my process and my training, my little ritual, I get a fasted cardio, and then it's work, try to be as effective as I can with work. But at 3 p.m. when my daughter comes home, that's done and it's cut off. And now I'm just with her. And whatever's going on the business side just has to wait. And I think setting up, having discipline and boundaries and focus really allows me to not just be more productive, but be a better person for everyone around me, be a better coach for my athletes, be a better husband for my wife. And sometimes it means caring less. Like sometimes we were talking about passion, like it's great to be passionate, but passion can also be a bad thing too. I've heard that term, crimes of passion, right? Like, I think it's just kind of finding some stillness and some calm in, our world, which is full of chaos, and we're, our lives are like our little universes, but there's so much more going on out there too. There's so much more beyond us. And having perspective on that gives me a sense of calm, and having the discipline to, just write lists and have organization and boundaries really helps keep myself under control, because I am so easily spun out of control. Mm-hmm. Like I am like a powder keg ready to go off at any given moment. I got to make sure that, I remember having a conversation with Cam, and I just asking her, like, why do I have to be so excessive with everything? Like, why do I feel that need to just go flying down the mountain as fast as I can? Like, it's okay to just kind of be still and be chill and slow and steady, because there's a lot of parts to life. It's not just one thing. And when things get out of balance is typically when the wheels start coming off.
For sure, man. I appreciate you sharing that. Supreme presence and truly being where your feet are. And you shared so many nuggets with us today, man. Compliance is the science, and the convenience is what leads to the consistency. There you hear it, guys. My amazing conversation with Dave Lipson. Dave, thanks for doing this, man. I know your schedule's packed. I appreciate you fitting me in.
My pleasure. It's always so fun to talk with you. We're always, one of my favorite guys in the world right here. So
it's fun to play ping pong back and forth, and I'll never forget some of those finishers that we've thrown down at Invictus, playing around with 100 dumbbell power cleans that turned into like supreme bicep curls.
Well, listen, whatever I program, just know that it's nothing I haven't done to myself first.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, man. For those of you watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify and Apple, if you enjoyed my conversation with Dave Lipson, he's Dave freaking Lipson on Instagram. You can also find them at Thunderbro. Thanks so much, man. And guys, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. Till next time. Thanks, Dave.
Awesome. Thank you, Bryce.
Are you over 35 and in need of a solid training program? Are you looking to improve your athleticism and keep up with the younger athletes in your CrossFit gym? Then look no further than our Invictus Masters program. This program places year-round emphasis on mobility and stability exercises with movements that we have seen directly benefit our Masters athletes. Our program is led by Nicole DeHart and offers a training program designed specifically for Masters athletes who are looking to compete at a higher level in the sport of CrossFit. Some of our top Masters athletes in the world train with us, including CrossFit Games champion Kevin Kester, Matt Beals, and Pat Sprague. You can learn more about their stories and the Invictus Masters program by checking out their episodes right here on the Invictus Mindset Podcast. If you'd like more information about the current training cycle or to join the Invictus Masters program, please email Nicole at invictusathlete.com. That's NICHOLE at invictusathlete.com.